Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth from craftsbyhappystamper.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you another Valentine's Day card that I made for the Can You Case It design team. This week it's a design challenge and you can submit your entries to go along with this sketch challenge anytime between now Sunday to Friday at noon. And this is a copy of what the sketch looks like, and you can do pretty much anything you want, and we'll accept it because we like people to, use their own variations and to make it your own anyway. So whatever you want to do. So to make this card, it's pretty simplistic. I started with a 4 1/4 by 11-inch piece of cardstock scored at 5 1/2, and I'm post-it taping off the back of the card, and I'm using my Hearts and Stars mask, which on the front of the card. And I'm using just post-it tape to hold it down. You can use anything to hold it down, really. And I'm going to use texture paste, which I haven't used in a long time. I have to stir it because it's getting kind of dry, but it just gives a little added effect. And I'm putting a thin layer over the entire front. And my camera cut off there, so that seemed a lot faster than it ended up being. But you could just watch the stencil with warm water, and it's, you know, just like new, so it doesn't hurt the stencil at all. Now I decided that I was going to cut a circle using the fourth largest and the fifth largest circles. Cut a circle from the Circle Collection framelits. The largest circle I did in Blushing Bride, and the smaller one is Whisper White. And I'm going to use the My Valentine photopolymer stamp from the Bloomin Love stamp set. And for this stamp, I haven't used it before, so you can see that I'm stamping first in Versamark, and then I just stamp it on some scratch paper and throw the scratch paper away. I clean the stamp, and then I use it with the ink that I want. The reason why I do that is because it prevents the photopolymer stamp from staining as badly as it would if I didn't, especially when I use rose red on it later. So I stamp it, the whole stamp in crumb cake, and then I used I wanted to say toothpick, a Q-tip to remove the ink off of the embellishment part of the stamp, and I added Blushing Bride ink. Now I thought that the Blushing Bride would look really well with it, and I think it would have looked well if I could get it dark enough, but I couldn't. I didn't feel like after I stamped it that the Blushing Bride was dark enough. I thought it needed more of an accent. So I decided to flip my circle over and try the process again, and this time I used rose red. So I'm just going to clean the stamp just like I did before. I don't have to restamp it in Versamark. You only do that the first time that you use it. So I covered the whole thing with crumb cake and then used the Q-tip to remove the ink. And then I used the brush end of my rose red Stampin' Right marker in order to color in the parts that I removed with the Q-tip. And before I stamp it, I huffed on it a couple times to add a little bit of liquid and wetness just in case the crumb cake had dried a little, and then I stamped it down. I probably should have used a foam mat underneath this, but I didn't. And for the most part, it looks good. There's a little bit missing from one of the leaves, so I just drew it in with the marker, and I think that you can't tell at all when I'm done. But after I finish the stamping, you can see I just cleaned the stamp there and it looks pretty clear. So normally if you don't do the Versamark, the rose red will really stain the stamp very thoroughly. So it really makes a big difference if you use the Versamark first. Now I'm just going to use liquid glue to attach my Whisper White circle to my Blushing Bride mat. And I used liquid glue because it gives me a little time to wiggle it around and make sure it's straight and exactly in the center of the Blushing Bride. And once I finished that, I got out my Stampin' Trimmer. And you could see I purposely stamped over to the right side of the circle. And the point of that being that I wanted to cut off the edge of the circle. So I did get a little bit of ink on the lower left-hand side of the sentiment that doesn't get cut off. So I tried a white gel pen to cover up a little bit of ink there. Just it was probably on my finger or something, but that didn't work. And then I used a craft pick, and that worked fine. A craft knife. I just scraped off the top layer and then used an eraser to make it more smooth. And now I'm just adding dimensionals to the back of the circles. You can, normally I would use actual dimensionals and not phone tape here, but I couldn't find my dimensionals at this time and I was just trying to hurry along. But I really like the white look of the texture paint on this crumb cake cardstock. I think it's really vibrant, but if you don't want to use texture paste and get that extra texture, you can always just use craft pigment ink, white pigment ink for it to work, and I think it would look beautiful just with that. So I punched out a rose red heart, and I'm going to add a little bit of dimensionals to the right side of the heart and liquid glue to the left side, because the left side of the heart's going to overlap the circles that are already up on dimensionals, so it doesn't need more dimensionals underneath. Now I'm using my favorite clear Wink of Stella pen, and I'm zooming in so you can see it. I'm going to add glitter to the entire heart, and it does make it look darker when you first start, and you can see like brush strokes, but don't worry about that. You don't have to blend it. You don't have to do any of that. It does get a little wet when you add the glimmer to it, but it dries clear, so you don't have to worry about it changing the look of the paper, or that you're seeing streaks or anything, because you won't see streaks when it dries. Now I'm taking some Crystal Effects, and I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it out of my bottle because I haven't used it in a while, so I just stuck a pin down inside it and loosened up the Crystal Effects, and then I have to squeeze a little hard to get it started. So you see me using two hands there, but now that it's started, it comes out just easily, and you can actually use the tip to push it around on the heart, and I'm covering the whole heart. When you first add it to your cardstock, if you haven't used it before, it looks a little milky white, a little bit opaque, but it dries completely clear, and it's really shiny and looks very three-dimensional. Uh, you could see all the glimmer behind the Crystal Effects. Isn't that pretty? I really love the look of that there. So, thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so. And you can click on the link in the description in order to get to the supply links for this card, as well as see my blog post. And there's also links to the sketch challenge if you'd like to join me. Thank you.